This Ooty Lit Fest. 1. The story of the ultimate myth. Two strangers, both deemed mentally unstable, meet by chance. Sonal, formerly a sociology professor and firebrand activist, is battling memory loss and acute depression. Abhay, a once celebrated genetic engineer, is a paranoid fugitive hiding from an establishment whose scientific paradigm he once challenged. They forge a bond without ever asking each other's name. Meanwhile, in the background, the world is experiencing a catabolic collapse of every kind, ecological, economic, and social. Who is causing this collapse? The resounding answer around the world is humans are causing it. Really? Through the quirky relationship and actions of the odd duo, we realize that the world is wrong. They have the correct answer that no one wants to hear. Their answer will most likely surprise and shock you, and it will dawn on you that they were not insane at all, but the rest of the world perhaps is. Together, they plan to take their revelation to the world before it's too late. But as always, reality has other plans. This, then, is the theme of Mansoor Khan's latest explosive novel, One, a novel described by actor-director and filmmaker Aamir Khan as a gem of a book which first challenged my mind and then blew it apart. We regret that due to unavoidable circumstances of just last week, Mr. Aamir Khan could not join us in person, but we do have him in the room with us online on video to give us his take on the novel and a brief interaction with Mansoor. After this, Mansoor will take us through the mind-bending world of One. Aamir will join us in 2 minutes.
You know. So I hope you can follow what I say, because a lot of what I will say is very disruptive, and you may not want to hear it. Aamir, can you hear me?
Mansoor, now I can hear
Yeah.
you.
No. But can you hear the audience also?
No, now I can hear you, so I
Oh,
was
okay,
waiting that
okay,
you also
okay,
would be able to hear that.
okay.
Hello, everyone. Very good evening to all of you, and let me start by apologizing for not being there in person. I was really looking forward to actually coming there to Ooty for this great festival, and not just to be a part of this evening, but I was keen to, listen to different people speak. And I loved reading, so I was looking forward to a couple of days of spending time in that actually was very keen to be there also because of Mansoor's book. I think, let me just say a few things about Mansoor. I've known him since, as far as as far back as I can remember, actually. So we've grown up together, and uh, you know, he's someone who I've never quite been able to put my finger on. I've never been able to place him and figure him out, because each time you feel you know where he's headed, he changes course and direction. So he's a bit of he's a seeker. I think the best way I can describe Mansoor is that he's a seeker. So he's always out on a quest and seeking. And I think that's one of his most remarkable qualities. Uh, and he's not afraid of what he discovers. He's courageous enough to look at what he discovers without fear. So these are some wonderful qualities about him, and that's what I think differentiates him from us other normal mortally creative people. He's someone who I look up to really as a creative, genius. He's someone who I go to when I'm in trouble or creatively stuck in any place. So I've seen his journey from being a filmmaker to being almost an engineer, to a scientist, to various things, and then finally he became a filmmaker, and then he went to farming, and now he's an author. Also, I found him far ahead of me personally. So whenever my vision of life and my perspective of life, and when I hear Mansoor talk, and he always brings a new lens to how I'm looking at things. And because of that, I find he's a few years ahead, a good 1 decade ahead of me. I kind of realized things later. Like I remember he was sending and receiving emails when there was no internet in India. So I'm talking about 80s. He used to dial on the phone, he used to dial some number, I don't know what he should do. There used to be some strange sounds, like how we used to have in the old days, but there was no internet in India to mind anything. He would manage to send emails, and I didn't know what an email meant at that time. I couldn't understand where he posted and all that. So he was far ahead of me at the very least. I've always looked up to him, his mind, and the way his mind works, and the honesty and passion and curiosity with which he approaches things. This book, one is a book that I've read and loved a lot. I've actually gone through it many times, and it says a big thing, and it really forces you to kind of look at things differently. That's what it did to me at any rate. And what's really beautiful about it is that it's told through really well etched out and very attractive characters that I really found myself pulled towards. And their story and their relationship and the characters around them are so beautifully written. So it's really a gem of a book, and I'm sure that Mansoor will speak more about it with you all this evening. And I'm sure you'll have a lot of questions. I wish I was there. I always find it fascinating to listen to Mansoor, because every time he speaks on the same topic, he also says something new. So I'm missing not being there with all of you today. So I wish you all guys all the very best, and Mansoor, have a great time. I hope the next year I'm there. So I want to thank the organizers for being so understanding of my situation, and I hope that next year or the years to come I can be a part of this festival. Good luck, Mansoor. Have a great time, and I wish all of you all the very best.
Thanks, Aamir. You have set the expectations very high. So I don't know whether you encouraged the audience or scared them. But yeah. Thanks so much for being here. And now the tough job for me.
By the way, which venue are you in? Because I'm a little familiar with Ooty. Where is it?
This is the Ooty Library
I see.
in central Ooty, near Shinkao's restaurant. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
It's a fabulous venue. I've spoken here twice before.
I see.
And there's a great audience here always.
Yes. Well, all of you have a great time. Wish all of you the very best and have a good time also. All the best. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Aamir. Bye. भैया ये बहुत मुश्किल है एक स्टार के बाद आना but Aamir is a very sincere person. What he says is from the heart. It's not because he's my cousin that he says these things, and vice versa. Okay. So this subject is very paradigm shifting. And actually, this book, first I have to tell you, it's a fiction book. It's a fiction book, but the purpose of writing the book was not to tell a story. The actual purpose was the thought within the plot. So I had to come up with a plot in which I could write the thought. So I'm only going to share, I won't share the plot, otherwise there's no fun for you to read it. So I will only share aspects of the thought. And secondly, I'm not an environmentalist. I'm not a moralist. I'm not all those things. You know, I'm a reality seeker, as Aamir said. And my core subject is reality. And what is reality? Reality is, you know, we have different ways of defining reality. Physics, chemistry, this, that, and the other. But if you were just to put it in simple terms, reality is the sum total of everything. What you can see, what you can't see. What you can touch, what you can't touch. What you know, what you don't know. All the stars, all the galaxies, all the forces, all the things which we might not even know. This sum total. And you don't have to break your mind over trying to say, oh, but what is that? It is the total. Everything is reality. That's the reality I'm talking about. And there's one quality of that reality that I know. That reality, which is everything, is connected. There are no boundaries in that reality. There is no boundary. For instance, there's no boundary between you and me, between me and this table, this chair, everything. So that is the core subject of my thought. So I would like to ask you, and those people who have attended my last year's lecture, please don't give the answer. Who is destroying the planet? We are in a catabolic collapse. Everybody knows it. Rivers gone, oceans acidified, species extinction, you name it. Forests gone, diversity gone, climate change, war and more war. It's a total, what is called a catabolic collapse. It's like a multiple organ failure. It's not just your heart. It's not just your kidney. I hope the kidney is here. But whatever it is, it's good not to know. And this obsession of knowing everything, I will come to. That we should know everything. That is a crazy idea. How much should I know what's in your head right now? Yeah. You're thinking like, when will this guy come to the top point, right? So, who is destroying the planet? I would love some answers. We are, and we means humans. Each one of us, I wouldn't say that. Humans is if you say each one of us, you mean humans. That is totally the wrong answer. Try again. Civilization, not industrial civilization. So people say, oh, what kind of an answer is that? But civilization consists of humans. Of course it does. But that does not mean that all humans are doing it. The Kotas, the Kurumbas, the Irulas, the Baki, the San, the Native Americans, the Eskimos, the Pygmies, the Sentinelese, are they causing it? There are 5,000 other human cultures. They are all human. Human is genetic. Culture is perspective. You can have two brothers, identical twins, same mother, same father, born at the same time, came out together also. Same genes, same DNA, but when they grow up, one brother respects women, thinks they are equals. And the other brother says, women are only good for three things. And I don't want to say what three things. So while the DNA is the same, that is species. And humans is a species. You cannot generalize and say, oh, all humans are doing it. This is the biggest lie. This is the biggest lie being propagated by all the people. And it's not because they're not propagating this lie for an ulterior motive. It is because they've been culturally conditioned for 10,000 years. Civilization is only 10,000 years old. That's a blink of an eye compared to humans. For 2 million years, humans lived wonderfully, peacefully. Didn't destroy anything. How? And when civilization started, and if you have the honest speakers about civilization, you don't know. Please, please, don't read Sapiens. Because it's a civilization chauvinistic centric book. And I don't mind if Harari sues me for this, because I have the argument for it. Civilization, you'll ask me then, what the hell is civilization? Civilization started with agriculture, which even Harari mentions in his book. Okay? Agriculture is the second greatest violation of ecological principles, of energy principles. We are taught that fire was the first great discovery of man. Absolutely wrong. Fire was the first violation of ecological and energy principles. You take a piece of wood that's collected for 100 years and you burn it in 1 hour. That wood was supposed to break down. The worms going to eat it up. The fungus that would grow on it. It was meant to become soil. No other living creature lights a fire. So this mistake was made by most humans 50,000 years ago. But that was not the problem. Fire created the sense of in versus out. At night when you light a fire, the circle of light, it fades slowly into the distance, but it creates a sense that the in, the lit, the warm is safe. And the out, the dark, the cold is unsafe. This is my territory and that is the wild. There was no sense of in and out. With one, there is no boundary, there is no in and out. So the sense, so actually what fire did, apart from the ecological destruction, I'm not bothered about that. Apart from the energy violation, I'm not bothered about that. I am bothered about how fire programmed, influenced, indoctrinated the human mind. It created the sense of the in and the out. It created the sense of a boundary. But it was a fuzzy boundary. Because the fire goes slowly, dim, dim, dim. You can't say the boundary is here. You go a little further, you say, oh yeah, maybe the boundary is here. So it was a fuzzy boundary. So for 50,000 years, probably most humans have used fire, except a few what we call untouched indigenous cultures like the Sentinelese, who live on a small island in the middle of the Pacific. They have lived for 60,000 years. And I don't think they've lit a fire because they would not have survived on that island. The Easter Island guys were civilized. They are not. For us, civilized is a good word, and primitive is a bad word. You see? So this is the indoctrination that has been fed into us, that we have advanced, we have evolved, we have progressed. We know, oh, God made a few things wrong, we'll correct it. So that's a kind of delusion, narcissism, and arrogance that civilization has. But I'm not interested in that either. After this 50,000 years, 10,000 years back, up till then, all living creatures, whether it be a germ or a worm or a spider or a fly or a dinosaur or a tree, they were all following the principles of energy laws, energy sharing. That means what fell on Mother Earth? The sun, which is why the sun is worshipped in so many cultures, because it is our source of energy. Everything works on that. And that energy which falls, no creature says, hey, that's mine also. Hey, that's mine also. No creature says that. No plant says, oh. So, what did civilization do? Civilization said, I have a better way of getting food. I don't want to trust Mother Nature. I'll grow my own food. That's energy violation. In fact, it's a theft. That energy which fell on this piece of land, where maybe thousands or 10,000 or God knows how many, if you count all the bacteria, and they're all sharing that energy, and that's for them. But you demarcate it and say, no, this is where my food will grow. I will grow it. I will control what grows here. So the key word is control. We are a control freak culture. So we said we'll grow our own food on our terms, and it will then belong to me. From there came the concept of property, ownership. There's no ownership in a jungle. Everybody says the lion is the king of the forest. That's a stupid civilization perspective. The lion doesn't consider itself the king of anything. It is as important as all the other things. Oh, doesn't matter how small. Ecology is a web. Ecology is not a pyramid. It is not the silly little germs and then worms and then asexual organisms and then sexual organisms and then snakes and snails and this and that and birds, and on top is sitting man. This is a perspective that is being given to us. And on top of that, amongst men is civilization. So even in men, which is a species, humans, I mean I say men, sorry ladies, but you know what I mean. We consider this is a hierarchy. This is a pyramid. Ecology is not a pyramid. Our notion which is taught is that evolution is that no worm is trying to become a snail. No snail is trying to become a snake. No snake is, you have this notion that everything's trying to, no monkey was trying to become a man. All the monkeys I know, I talk to them regularly, they consider themselves lucky, yaar, boss. Hum log bach gaye yaar. This kind of delusion that it's a one-way linear path, which we call progress. Yes? So these are all ridiculous concepts. But where did it come from? So when we did agriculture, the sense of the boundary became finer. Fire was a fuzzy boundary. Yes, Dark, darker, darker, dark, dark, dark. Fuzzy boundary. But agriculture said no. It's a much finer boundary. But it doesn't exist. Show me a boundary. Show me any boundary. Why did civilization write a book called Advait? Why did civilization need to write a book called Advait? What does Advait mean? No other, which is one. There is no other. No Adivasi needs to write that book. He's living in Advait. When you're a thief, you write a book on honesty. If you're an honest man, you'll say, yeah, but what is honesty? I always behave like this. So that was the beginning. And I'm sorry the session is small. We are limited. But I hope you're getting the crux of it. That perspective, which is culture. Culture is not art, literature, Ooty Lit Fest and all that. Sorry. Culture is not paintings, music. Culture is a summation of an organism's life, existence. A frog has a culture. A snake has a culture. What does a frog like? Flies. That's its culture. What does a frog like? Wet spaces. That's its culture. So we are so self-centered, chauvinistic, that we have defined culture from this pyramidical point of view. Oh, those lower, less cultured Adivasis, poor chaps, they don't know what 2 plus 2 is. They don't need to know. In fact, just want to ask you on that question. Can you show me 2 of anything? 2 identical things. 2 of anything, can you show me? How do we come up with this idea of 2? No 2 things can be identical. That's what Advaita is saying, that there is no other. You raised your hand? Do you need something? Okay. So this is called symbols. So when we made that boundary, all the symbols, you had to name it. What is this? It's rice. So you gave it a label. How much is there? Let's call it 25, whatever they called it in those days. Who does this belong to? Ownership. These are all concepts. And then we give this gyan that when you die, you take nothing with you, especially when a rich man dies. Huh? Or everybody come to his funeral and says, oh God, he had 10,000 crores, but what is the use of that 10,000 crores? Where will he take it? Wow, we love to give gyan at these moments. And when you go back after the funeral to your office, you say, what's the sales? Has it gone up? How's the growth? Ridiculous. When there is no 2. 2 plus 2 is equal to 4. That equal to is a concept. Nothing can be equal to anything else. So this is called symbolic thought. And symbolic thought, we are symbolic culture. But that was not the problem. Because even Adivasis have symbols. Even Adivasis have names. Kotas, Krumbas, Irulas, those 5,000 cultures. They fell into this trap also. But they didn't go one step further. They did not make their science symbolic. Their science. What does science mean? Actually, science only means understanding. A mother understands her child. Does the mother understand her child because she knows exactly how much it weighs and what is the tone, his skin tone and how much hair? She intuitively understands it. How does any animal understand its territory? How does a bison know how to survive? How does a snake, snail, fish? Because that knowledge, that perception is non-symbolic. So if you see the world, one simply means non-symbolic. Because there is no boundary. So how can you get a symbol? How can you say, this is Mansoor? Do I end here? Or do I end here where the air is warmed by me and has the aroma of my skin? Or do I end there where you can see me and I affect you? Or do I end at the edge of the, never end actually, because my gravitational force never dies. Each mass. So the notion that we can put an imaginary boundary is an insistence. It is an act of control. It is an act of saying, here's an orange. First of all, what do you mean by orange? And here's another. But this one is different. It has some spots here. And this one is raw. But we'll still call them two oranges. That is a reduction of reality. Two girls, two men. They are different in so many ways. But math says, and civilization says, oh no, we'll ignore the differences and we'll say that they're two. Reality doesn't give two hoots about how you define symbols. That is the real problem. And we are so steeped and committed and indoctrinated that we think words are the most powerful thing. I'd like to quote, oh, by the way, this is my book, which I expect all of you will go out and buy multiple copies, except the ones who are leaving. And this is my first book, which you will get totally free if you buy this. But why I picked up this book is because there's a quote by John Zerzan, from whom I learned all these principles from his books. Derek Jensen. These are two of the most revered names and figures in that small segment of the world which understands what primitivism is, which understands what one is, which is called an anti-civ movement, anti-civilization. Not anti because you're anti-civ because you're questioning all the ridiculous things that only civilization as a culture does. No other indigenous culture believes in quantitative growth or measurement. They don't. They don't believe that if you convert real soil and thing into money, then money is value. Money is a symbol. You can make any laws for money you want. And we did. We said money has to grow. It has to earn interest. That's your insistence. But if this money grows, does it mean that resources are growing and boiling out of the earth simultaneously? Of course not. In fact, they're going down because you burnt all this to create that money, which you can't eat. What do you eat? A 10-rupee note or a loaf of bread? And what if you go on Mars with $2 trillion in your pocket and there's nothing you can buy? So civilization is the core subject of my book. Reality is the core subject. But the critique, if we have to find any answers to this catabolic collapse, then it's not plant trees, go green. This is superficial. That's the reason why the green movement has been there from 1960. And we've only got worse. Because you're treating the symptoms, not the cause. You're putting cream to remove blisters, but not why you're getting those blisters. Just about, sorry if I offend anyone, just about everything we know and everything we think and revere and hold superb, everything, I mean everything about civilization is false. Our economics, our science, it's quantitative. That you will get to read in the book. I won't bore you with it. So, here's reality. And you deal with reality in 5 steps. Every creature deals with reality in 5 steps. What do I mean by reality? This everythingness, this one. So, a spider has to deal with reality. A dog has to deal with reality. And similarly, humans. And so the first step of dealing with reality is that you have to perceive it. So how do you perceive it? Through your senses. Smell, touch, taste, sound. What else is there? something else. So that's perception. I touch this. Oh, it's smooth. Oh, it's hard. So I now have an understanding. So after perception comes understanding. Oh, that means I can keep this on this. Understanding is science. Step 3 is that with this understanding, then you apply your understanding to manipulate the environment or the world for your survival. That is called application, but we call it technology. All are slippery words. Technology is not this. It's not the mobile phone or the internet or the computer or a microchip. Technology just means application of understanding. So a frog has a technology. A spider has a technology to spin a web, which we can't do. A beaver has a technology of making a dam with twigs without damaging the river. That is also technology. But those are one technologies. So if your perception is one, then your science will be holistic. Your understanding of reality will be holistic. It will be one science. I call this one science. I call civilization a boundary culture because we rely on boundaries to explain reality. So the third step of application, that if you have a boundary science, your technology, whatever it may be, is going to be destructive. You'll say, oh yeah, plastics are destructive, but Mansoor, this other thing that we made is not destructive. I'll say anything which comes from boundary science is going to be boundary technology, which is going to be destructive, which is going to cause the fourth step called state of the world. So what does the world become if you have this kind of science, this kind of technology? The world is in collapse. But if you had one science and one technology, then the world is in harmony, symbiotic. And that was what was happening for 3.6 billion years. There were no symbols, there was no notion of boundary. So we have, of course you get an advantage. You say, but Mansoor, how would you get this camera? How would you get... Reality doesn't care whether you have a camera or not. Reality works on its own terms. I have a line for it. Reality does not negotiate. You can't say, boss, I'll go to the temple 20 times here. Please let me smoke 3 packs a day. No, reality doesn't care about that. So that is our separation from reality. And if the state of the world is in collapse, which you all know now, then everybody is jumping up and down, right from a 3-month-old child to a 90-year-old man, saying, hey, we're destroying the planet, we have to do something about it, but why? Come on, I'm very awakened and I'm environmental and la la la. So the 5th step is response. So perception, understanding, science, application, technology, outcome, state of the world, response is the 5th step. And we are all in that response phase right now. Oh, we must correct this. We must not throw plastic. We must do this. We should not. We should recycle. We should reuse. We should. Now, how should we do all this? So we jump to the same science and the same technology, but we don't change our perspective. It doesn't make a difference. If a husband is a male chauvinist, and he fundamentally, his perception is that women are weak, inferior, emotional, non-rational, then his understanding of women will be, you can't give them property. You can't, you have to control them. So your technology will be controlled. And this same man who does this, he goes to a doc and he explains this. So the doc says, then what happened? He says, my marriage is in collapse. What should I do, doc? So he said, I tried everything. I gave her, this thing and that thing. I revered her. I treated her like a princess. I gave her diamonds. That's application. Diamonds giving, that's control. But nothing is happening. It's not working. So the doc says, Mansoor, your problem is that you think your perception is wrong. You think women are intrinsically inferior. And if you don't change your perception, no matter what you do, more diamonds, more sweet words, darling, honey, 100 roses. Ridiculous stuff civilization does. It's a pathetic culture. It's a viral culture. It's a deluded culture. Just because it is a dominant culture, we say, but what else is there? But that's what happens in your body. All healthy living cells have a certain principle of biology, whether it be your skin cell, your blood cell, your brain cell. And what is the principle of biology? That a cell has a finite life, it stays in the same place, and uses a certain amount of resources. But one cell says, these guys are all primitive. I'm not going to die. I'm going to double, become 2, and my 2 kids are going to become 4, and my 4 kids are going to become 8, and what do you call that? So when it happens in your body, you call it cancer. But when we do it in our economic system, we call it progress. Marvelous. I've got so many such. Actually, I want to be a stand-up comedian. I'm not representing myself correctly. I'm being too serious. Library. I have so many such examples. Thank you. So that is the core thought of my book. That if you do not change your perspective, I'm not saying it's easy to do or it is possible to do, but you can recognize. You won't blindly believe in this science. Oh, we have a fix for this. Oh, soils are depleting, we have a fix. What was the fix? Chemicals. Nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium. As if those are the only 3 things that matter to a plant. What is the problem with your economy? Oh, it's not moving fast enough. Build wider highways, faster cars, faster computers. You are not, you're stuck in this loop and you will never find an answer. And once in a while it hits us hard and we acknowledge some wisdom from the indigenous people. We talk about diversity. We talk about small is beautiful. We talk about reuse, recycle and all. It's a farce. So that is the crux of my book. So a few questions. It's a very interesting plot, I assure you. And through that plot, I've fitted in this thought. And the main thing I want you to take back with you is, if you ever meet a person who says, oh God, humans are destroying the planet, you should immediately check him. One second. Humans are destroying the planet? Or civilization is destroying the planet? Civilization is a culture we spread. There were God knows how many 100,000 cultures before civilization came 10,000 years. There was diversity of cultures. And each culture knew what it was doing, why it was where it was. The Todas knew what they knew their soil more than a soil scientist today knows. Knowing is not symbolic. Knowing is instinctive, intuitive, experiential, and traditional. That is true knowing. Any questions?
Yeah. So, just a question on this. Obviously, I think the philosophy and the thought is extremely deep and compelling. The question is, for the mind, which is so now 20th century in a way. I mean, technology, science. In fact, I would say a lot of it is even, completely westernized in some sense or the other. So, how does one rethink this whole paradigm? It almost looks like a complete unlearning. So is that how it works?
I'm not a solution giver. I'm not a doctor. The doctor says, well, how do I give up alcohol? I'm telling you, alcohol is bad for you. You figure out how you can stop it. So reality is not concerned, Arun. Reality does not negotiate. Reality gives you reality. I'm sorry. Reality gives you signals. The species extinction, the climate change, the drying of, these are signals that reality is giving you. COVID is not because of any indigenous culture. Do you know that there are more diseases in civilization than in any other culture? You see, that's how the Europeans went and killed most, because they took cholera over there and smallpox and spread those blankets. How devious, how murderous. Because they had no resistance, what's it called? Immunity, sorry, for it. They don't need a Nankam hospital here. How will you live, Mansoor? My family say, you're going to Kunur, you're going to live there. There are no good hospitals there. This is the madness. So we have, you name it, cancer, diabetes. These are all civilization's diseases, hypertension, psychological problems, ADHD. They don't have it. Otherwise, how did humans survive for 2 million years? We are saying we are the most supreme culture. We know we are in the age of enlightenment. Sorry, what you're talking and calling knowledge is superficial knowledge, it's symbolic knowledge, it's incomplete knowledge. Just because you know F is equal to ma and E is equal to mc squared, reality doesn't care about that. Because you're only taking 3 factors, E, M, and C. But what about everything else? So that's the madness of civilization. And mark my words, in the years to come, you will see the anti-civ awakening happening. But you know what? We are very duplicit. Just like we did with the environmental thing. We say, oh, now we know that we are destroying the environment, so we'll go green. Ah, very good, very good. So all your logos became green or brown. You called anything, this is a green generator. This is a sustainable, these are words. Like you'll hear, I had a lot of jokes in mind, but sustainable growth. It's an oxymoron. And only a moronic culture can come up with this. If it is sustainable, it will not grow forever. And if it grows forever, it cannot be sustained. Why did all of you go to school? Because they conditioned you to believe, no, sustainable growth. It's a hep term here. You know, I have made a new term. Loving rapist. A loving rapist. I'm aspiring to be one. If I'm loving, I cannot rape. And if I'm a rapist, I know nothing about love. These are the kind of ridiculous things that we think that the symbolic world can somehow get along. Oh, real growth is not possible? No, no, we'll create the concept of shares and a share market. What is a share market? It's a gambling den. But gambling isn't a sin. No, no, when you do it in the share market, it's not a sin. It's totally accepted. Otherwise, your gambling dens have to be in the middle of Mandovi River, not on land. But then, of course, it gives you your GDP, which is another crazy concept. So then we kept, that's my first book. I tell you, but read that. We kept making more concepts, shares, these things. I don't know, I've forgotten now, it's been so many years. Options, derivatives, hedge funds. You're going more and more symbolic. You actually believe that if Tata's shares go up 100%, but his production has gone up only 6%, you actually think that those shares are worth that? They are not. So at every level, symbolic thought is a failure. I forgot to tell you. I'm going to stop now. I was going to say, I missed words. We think, oh, he's a man of letters. You know, we consider words to be the most powerful thing. And yet that's what we've been celebrating for 2 days. But do you know what John Zerzan said? He said, words conceal more than they reveal. That's absolutely true. I can say I love you, but I don't come and look after you when you're not well. I'm not compassionate to you. So words have no meaning, and that we say, oh, these are mere words. So we are such a duplicit culture that we celebrate words and yet denigrate words. What can I do about this insane culture? So the book is fiction.
Just put it on.
Is it working? Oh. Hi, Mansoor. This is Surekha Kothari. I'm a student of Vedant, and what you just said for the last couple of, half an hour, 1 hour, it was fantastic. There is just one thing that I always think about vis-a-vis what you just said about reality and oneness. The concept of Aham Brahmasmi, which you probably have heard of. So which obviously means that it is whatever this external world is, or the fluctuations, or whatever you mentioned, isn't it all within our personal awareness? And isn't it a fact that if our awareness increased, that we would all be able to reach the state of reality which has nothing to do with the external world?
It has everything to do with the external world.
Because,
So
no, sorry,
this-
it doesn't have everything to do in that sense,
Yeah.
because what we understand is that this whole
So
external
this whole
world
thing-
is a reflection.
This is another myth of civilization, this enlightenment, this reaching a higher platform. I'm a more, sorry, these are all terms, why? The Native, the other 5,000 cultures, they don't have this dilemma. They don't have, mind-correcting courses and enlightenment courses and wisdom, and they don't need it. But when we do it with the same mindset. That is only about that. But you still believe in that bogus science. You will still say, oh, wow, that's how you will still celebrate somebody going to moon and Mars. You still celebrate cracking the atom. Whatever Vedant you will talk about, but you will not leave that. So what is the use of that? So Vedant for me is civilization. It is shallow gyan. I'm sorry, I'm very blunt. Advait is also shallow gyan. Because what did they do with Advait? So
I have another counter question to what you just said.
Yes.
So does that mean that the entire creation is just a part of the law of nature, like you have a creation, preservation, and destruction? So is it a cycle, a circle of life?
of course it's a cycle.
That nothing can really alter, because that's how it's going to be.
Yes, of course, there is a cycle. There are these three things, whatever. But they have their own principles. We deny all of them. We try to extend our life. What do you mean by that? If all the rats in Bombay decided to double their life, how would you feel about it? So when we do it, it is progress. We are totally deny. So civilization is, I love to use bad words, but unfortunately the bad words that we have are actually good words. So I'm very surprised that using the F word is bad. That's how you procreate, don't you? Using this D word, 4-letter D word is bad. But that's how life goes on. That's how you get pleasure. So civilization is so crazy that it reflects in every aspect. It's language. Guys, how many of you think exploit is a good word? Exploit is a good word. No? I'm sorry, I can't.
He wants to know the takeaway message from this session.
Yes.
No, the takeaway is whatever you take with you.
You
I can't.
Sir, you spoke about
I can't give it to
perspective. You spoke about perspective,
But
understanding.
sir, you're interrupting my line of thought. I had just asked.
Just I have a simple doubt because If there is no culture, civilization, there is no need to conduct Ooty Literature Festival. This is a simple question arises in my mind.
Okay,
Yes,
Mansoor.
please,
Mansoor,
No, just one thing. Exploit, is it a good word or bad word? Oh, I like this. Duality. Civilization is the only culture that has a dilemma of duality. And where does duality come from? Boundary. There is no, exploit is a bad word. Correct? But yet, when you're in your office and when you're in your business and you're a CEO, you say, guys, we haven't exploited this market. We haven't exploited China's middle class yet. Oh, we haven't, the pre-teen market of India, we haven't exploited. Would you go home and tell your wife or husband, darling, we haven't exploited the kids tonight? We must. You know, Auntie Jessie we haven't exploited her for such a long time. Why are you laughing? But you have no hesitation. This is the boundary. Business is business, and social ethics is. So we want growth, but we don't want the environment to collapse. It's a dilemma. You still want your 7% compounding interest. What that means, read in my white book. It's free to download on the net also. But the physical copy you can get there if you buy my other book,
so
which I know all of you will.
Yes, his book is available at the counter outside. And we would like, if you would like his signature, you could meet him after the session. We have one very special task now, after which you can go out and speak to Mansoor. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mansoor, for
Thanks.
your session and the one.